Recorded live from Portland, Oregon, it's the Transamorous Network podcast. Let's get it on.
Hey everybody, it's Harry Grouper from the Transamorous Network podcast.
Hi, it's Remy.
And this is Shannon Scott. Hello, hello.
It's good to have everybody here this morning. It's kind of hard getting here.
Always great to be here.
Oh my God, Rose Parade today. Rose Parade today. In case you didn't know, today's the Rose Parade. I should have walked.
All of downtown is blocked off.
Yeah.
As far as my place up on 18th, like
really,
it's all blocked off.
Yeah.
I was glad I was on my bike today because traffic getting in here was.
Oh, by the way, I got flipped off by a bike rider today.
Yay!
For what?
Well, that's the thing, because I don't know. We were on one of those Portland streets that has a dedicated one lane for traffic, and then like almost a full lane for bike riders. It's literally like 3/4 of a lane.
green one.
Yeah, the green stripe.
Yeah. And so we were stopped, and like everybody else was stopped, and this bike rider drives by and like flips me off. But here's what I'm not sure. Was she flipping me off, or was she flipping the whole line of cars off? Because I couldn't tell. It was up when I saw her, and it was up when she cut off in front of me. And I was like, what did I do? I'm not even moving. What did I do wrong? And then I'm thinking, what did anybody do wrong? And then I realized she's probably just mad at the situation like everybody else is. So speaking of bikes, she beat us here. Yeah, that would have been a lot nicer.
Yeah. I wonder if you were on the green stripe.
Heels, though.
Were you on the green stripe?
Oh. Maybe.
Or in the green stripe?
Maybe,
yeah.
But the stripe is so wide. You could literally ride 3 or 4 three in it.
You could, yeah.
And so it's not like I was in line. I wasn't doing anything outrageous.
Portland's kind of
I was playing rap music.
You thug gangster, you.
Yes. Maybe that's what it was. She was like, F your rap music.
That could have been that.
Like that.
It's interesting because Portland's getting like China
on your
in that
beauty.
regard. She couldn't even see her.
How do you know?
I don't know.
Let's go with that.
See? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Portland is what?
It's getting like China with so many bikers. And the lanes are getting, the roads are becoming bike lanes in large measure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too, but a lot of Portlanders don't.
Well, I don't even own a bike. And I think that bike lanes are awesome. I absolutely love the idea. I love what it does. I love how it's a win-win situation. It makes you healthier. It makes the environment healthier. It makes us less dependent on foreign oil, blah, 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 blah. There's like no lose, except for the bike rider who occasionally gets hit by a driver who's not paying attention. Yeah. And sometimes the bike rider's out of order.
Sometimes it's their fault too.
Yes.
It goes both ways in this situation. Because not all, they expect that the drivers are going to be the ones completely conscious, but you have better view, you have more mobility, like you've got to take
Perry, do you have a
yourself.
biker attitude? Because here's what I noticed. Some people who ride bikes in town get this attitude like, I have the right of way. They kind of go into that, they cross the line into the pedestrian rules when they're not a pedestrian.
Correct.
So
I don't have that attitude. I do ride offensively, which means I am hyper vigilant about cars possibly hitting me, and so
that's the way you should be.
I ride in a way that makes sure that they know I'm there.
It's so hard. I mean, not like everybody that gets hit by someone driving a car didn't necessarily get hit intentionally. Sometimes it's hard to see.
Most of the time,
cars
not
do have
intentional.
blind zones, and
I hope that they're watching, but expect that they're not.
Yeah,
I think is the way to ride a bike.
The audience is like, I didn't know I was tapping into a bike riding podcast.
Yeah, I kind of
we cover everything.
I left turn that one like we always do. So let's get back onto our topic that we were supposed to talk about today.
So we do have an agenda. The first thing is that we wanted to talk about, is there any preamble stuff? Not really. The first thing we want to talk about is the blog post from last week, which is specifically towards the Transamorous Male. And actually, Remy was talking about having someone she met come next week, but we're not going to have a show next week. I mean, we're all going to have a show next week, but we're not going to record a show next weekend because I'm going to be at a seminar, and it's the Pride Parade.
It's the Trans Pride March.
So we'll be there.
We will be there.
We will be there. But this article is talking about living your life out loud as a transamorous male and all the benefits that come from doing that. And when you do that, you will experience the kind of joy that we talk about in this show. But there are these things that people believe are standing, that transamorous men believe are standing in the way of having a life that they can love, including a partner that they can love. And some of that stuff can seem legitimate, like potentially losing friends or family or their job.
It's interesting that most of other people's concerns about those type, like your personal concerns about coming out as a transamorous man, most of those fears are based in like the losing of other people, of their opinion of you, what they might think of you.
Can you really lose your job for who you date? I mean, I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say because, lesbian and gay men lose their job all the time for who they date. But if you're dating a trans woman, how would that work? What would be their cause for firing you, I guess?
It's a good question. Not all fear is rational, but I think what they might be thinking about is the workplace getting so uncomfortable if the bros found out that they would have to leave their job. I could see like a construct.
And in that way, people get fired for all sorts of other reasons, but it's not the real reason.
Correct. And not necessarily even fired. They might just have to shoot. They might believe they would have to leave their job because they couldn't stand the pressure of the peer
But I can definitely see Tim being fired because he's not a quote unquote team player or whatever you want to say. You're not part of the bro crew or whatever. So.
Or even maybe not, I don't think this would happen today, but I could see it happening 10 years ago, not even getting a job because they go onto your social media and see that you are dating gay or dating trans or whatever. Media. Yeah. But what Remy was saying is really interesting. A lot of the fears are about
what other people
are thinking and losing connections with people because of what those people, it's not even losing, it's fearing losing the connection based on what those people might be thinking about your, and it's funny that we say the word might because, so for the audience, I have this is to show you that Perry doesn't have it all together all the time. So this bottle that I have, this water bottle, it says fine on it. And this morning, as we were getting, this is interesting too. I had an interesting interpretation in the interaction with this bottle. So I had my water bottle over there, and you don't know why I drew the conclusion that I drew, but I'm going to explain it right now. So the water bottle was sitting over there, and I was over here, and I asked Remy to get the bottle, and Remy went fine, and I thought she meant fine. You don't want to drink out of the cups that I got us last week. That's what I thought you meant. And then I said something in response to that. I can't remember what I said. It was innocuous. But then you said, I was just reading what's on the bottle. Yeah. And I didn't even...
With an attitude, of course. Well, but because it's that word, it's like, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I do everything with an attitude. So, whatever.
But it's funny, right? Yeah. This is how we are all the time. And I could see how a transamorous man could interpret an innocuous comment, even if they're not out. If someone says something about, if someone brought up the article that we're going to talk about in a few minutes in their workplace about transgender and they're not out as a transamorous man, I could see how they might take that comment and interpret it in some negative way.
Because they could potentially, they could potentially have negative opinions and they're going to talk about it. So you see what kind of thought process they already have. Therefore, it scares you into saying anything because you don't want to be ridiculed. You don't want to be part of that hazing or, harassing.
That's a good point, Remy. Yeah. So having a transamorous man interacting incognito, interacting with his bros in what is in a circumstance where his transamory isn't out, would be privy to all the bullshit perspectives that straight men have about those kind of guys, calling them fags or whatever, teasing them about sucking dicks or whatever.
Well, when you were in Oklahoma, you talked about these people that were sitting behind you or across from you, and the conversation they started, the exact same situation. You know what I mean? If you're that one that's sitting there, like, oh God, here we go again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I could.
And they're talking shit over here, but you got a hard on for Shannon. You know what I mean? What are you supposed to do in that moment?
Exactly. And so I could see. You're right. I can see how a guy would conclude these guys are not going to accept me, even though he might be totally wrong.
Absolutely.
These guys are not going to accept me because I know how they treat.
There's group mentality too. People will show off for friends. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If all the guys are talking shit, then you're going to join in and talk shit too, even if you believe the opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that
what is
goes
that thing when the male birds put their feathers up? And you know what I'm talking about?
Mating ritual.
Yeah, when they get all big
peacock.
And poofy. Yeah, peacocking.
Look at me, I'm pretty.
They're peacocking. Yes, they're peacocking. Men, oh my God, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. All the men out there who ever peacock, stop it. Just, ugh.
But you're hitting on some really good points, Remy. I mean, you're right. People are going to go. Usually, they go along with the group mentality in the moment of the mentality occurring, and you could very well have someone in that group that belongs to the population that group is dissing at that.
And you're most likely going to. It's like, growing up a gay person and being around the boys, and they're all, they're calling each other fag and talking about all this, that, and the other. You get privy to what kind of situation it's going to be. So it might prolong your outing because you're worried about what they might say.
Yeah, I dated a man for 2 years, and he was older than me. He's affluent, and we dated for quite some time before he really got the courage to take me to the country club. With the good old boys, because though it's predominantly older, affluent men who are relatively conservative for the most part. And once I got in, it was, they were all like, no one said anything bad ever. It was just, maybe once or twice, but nothing really that mean, just maybe curious questions. So it was really surprising. I'm sure he was surprised and relieved.
I think, also the whole confidence concept and things that we were talking about before, when you know you and you're comfortable with you, it makes other people comfortable with you.
That's true.
You know what I mean? When you have and these are just words, a weak trans person who's maybe earlier or feels that they are not passable or whatever these feelings, the self-confidence, you know what I mean? You become an easy target because you're carrying that energy, you're putting out there that all these things might happen to you. Here we go
We're
again.
Just sitting over here.
That's what I'll say, girl.
It's completely true. And I've even fallen... Before I really was more self-aware as I am now, even when I would see someone who I interpreted to be weak, and that's no real interpretation of reality, but from my point of view, I would do one of two things. I would coddle them to death, or I would attack them like a wolf attacking the weak member of the
flock. Or
yeah.
Man
up, bitch! It's all this bullshit.
And so many times I got burned because my interpretation was completely wrong. They're like, no, this is just my personality. Why don't you step the F back? And so I was like, oh. So I think letting people be who they are too is, because not everybody's like me.
No,
I realized that just very recently. Not everybody's like me.
Well, and
I know that nobody's like me. It's true. No one's like me.
That's right. Yeah.
There is no other Remy that's me in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because not only is no one like our individuals, hardly anyone gives a shit about what you're doing, thinking, or being.
That's true.
In reality, no one's out there paying attention to, like, sometimes I ride my bike down the street or I'll be doing something like walking, and I'll notice something about my visual appearance, and I'll look around as if people are paying attention. People aren't paying attention to me like that,
Well, after that one conversation we had where we talked about you're talking about you went to pho and there was a trans woman and being in the restaurant and the whole insecurity and watching and being aware of other people's awareness, it brought a huge awareness to my awareness of being aware of other people and caring, right?
So that was like awareness to awareness.
You got it.
You got it. Okay, let's continue.
It's like I've changed myself and been more conscious of how, if I'm looking around, why am I looking around?
Yes.
And is it because I'm worried? Is it because I'm afraid? Is it because I'm just looking?
God.
Right? We're talking about
So I used to have those moments. Like when I was first transitioning, I was hyper aware of everything. What people were saying, how they looked at me. Did they stop and pause? Did their looks linger longer than I was comfortable with? And I got really, really good at listening behind me. Because when you walk by someone, some people do, talk shit right to your face or when they're walking towards you, but they always wait 2 or 3 steps back. And so I assessed, my passability, how I looked that day, how I was presenting to the community by listening to behind me 2 steps at it. In fact, I wouldn't hear anything people said, but I was listening so intently on what they'd say behind me, and it was really exhausting. And now I barely notice people. unless they shout at me. And they have to kind of shout.
Damn.
Exactly. What would he say?
Something like,
what did that guy say last week?
He said, "God damn."
He said,
"Hold on a minute."
Yeah, it's on.
yeah. So unless something like that happens, I don't even notice. People tell me all the time, that guy just tripped looking at you. I'm like, what? And I'm like, so now I'm so relaxed and comfortable with who I am that I don't do that anymore. But it's exhausting to have to live that way.
And it's funny because the same thing could be said for Transamorous Man and their experience.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Except even more incognito because, I said this.
Well, there's no way to physically tell. There are no tells of a transamorous man.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought you meant his insecurity. But yeah, you can tell.
But I mean, if someone's going to walk past you and say something 2 feet behind you, it's going to be tranny, fag, whatever, right? A lot of times. But if you're seeing a transamorous man, you don't know that he's a transamorous man. They don't have all this giant wart on their nose that defines him as a trans. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. It's mostly what's going on is in the mind of the transamorous man more than anything else.
Absolutely.
Until they come out, and then they have to deal with whatever they have to deal with. But it's interesting that Shannon was saying this thing about paying attention to what's happening behind her, because what we talk about here is not paying attention to what's going on in our physical reality, but instead paying attention to what we're thinking inside, because that's determining what's happening out in the world. And so it's almost 2 steps back from that when you're thinking about what people are saying behind you, right? It's so interesting. And so when you're the transamorous man, it's so interesting because
I did that for a long time.
Right? I think
I came out gay at 13, and I was a very effeminate boy. And so I grew very accustomed living in Oakland, California, to listening behind me and watching what might happen in front of me. You know what I mean? I got very used to that. And I find that, especially after we had that one conversation where it brought a lot of it to my attention, my attentions have changed and I feel different. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care.
And that's what
we want. Niggas still pulling over in traffic. Whatever.
And that's what we want the transamorous men to do, is to not give a shit and come on out and be themselves. And one of the challenges, so since we're talking about the challenges, one of the challenges that I know of that was pointed out to me by a straight man about being transamorous is that if you compare it to like being gay. So when you come out as being gay, you immediately have other gay men that can be your support group. You know where you can go to date, to find dates, to find support and whatnot.
All right, you go down to the Fruit Loop and go to the gay clubs.
Whatever, yeah. But
that's what it's called.
And as a transamorous man, though, you're not dating other transamorous men.
No.
You're trying to date a trans woman. And in some cases, the transamorous or trans woman, it has no interest in you because you're transamorous. You're seen in some cases as a tranny chaser, or some sort of a pervert, or someone who's going to objectify me. This is a trans person talking. Someone who's going to objectify me or treat me as a fetish or something like that. And so so I'm speaking from the transamorous man's point of view. So the transamorous man here is trying to date these people, or is trying to express their attraction to these people who often see them as less than desirable. For some legitimate reasons.
It's based on their experiences.
Yeah. That has a lot more to do with their self-worth and their self-talk, speaking from the transgender woman side of it, than it ever has to do with anybody else. Because if you think that someone wants to date you because they're a tranny chaser, because they're going to, fetishize you, that's a story you're telling yourself. Yes, maybe other people have had that story that you've listened to, but there are a ton of other people that don't have that story. You're just choosing which story to listen to and which story to tell yourself.
Well, so
it's repeating the story of what was.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So if a guy is okay, so let's say a guy heard this program and he's like, okay, I'm going to own my transamory. God damn it, I'm tired of being in the closet.
Do it.
And so he comes out to himself, and then starts to go out and tries to find a person. And maybe he goes about it wrong. Maybe not wrong, but he goes through it in a less than effective way. Say he goes onto Craigslist and
you go where what you know.
You go with what you know, right. And so you have this first encounter, and the first encounter, I'm just making this up, but it has happened before. Your first encounter doesn't go well because you are overtly expressing your attraction to this woman, this trans woman, and this trans woman, because of your story as a transamorous man about trans women, and because of her story and that she's concluded based on her experiences dealing with men, she is now expressing I don't want to talk with you, motherfucker, because you're just like every other man I've experienced. You're going to treat me like shit. And so the Transamorous Man on his first attempt doesn't get very much support. He gets the opposite of what he was expecting. He's thinking. Now I'm speaking to some degree from my own long past experience. He's thinking, I'm so glad I'm finally about to take this step. It's been so long, and now I'm a little nervous. So I'm going to go to this club. And now I'm in this club. I'm so nervous, but I'm now going to make this approach. I'm going to try to talk to this woman who's next to me, this trans woman. I'm speaking from the mind of the man. Okay, I'm going to try and make this. I'm going to try and make this attempt. So I reach out and I say, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" And the woman doesn't give me a time of day. She looks at me, and then she turns around or maybe even she says, "Go away, I don't want to talk to you," which is what happened to me in San Francisco.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
So I don't know why. But my point...
Catty bitches.
Yeah. My point...
I think that's all it is.
Well, my point is that so this Transamorous Man is trying to own in the physical world now who he is. He reaches out to try to talk to someone, and he gets the reaction that he gets based on his own stories, of course, but also because of the stories that the trans woman has had dealing with men. Now... let's look at a gay man as a contrast.
Well, it's being made to suffer now for someone else's actions before.
I just have one question to ask. If that trans woman who was rude to you and said, "I don't want to talk to you," what the hell was she doing in this club?
It's a good question.
Why, if you don't go there to meet somebody and you're there alone and, why are you there?
Well, it could have been that I just wasn't.
Sorrows.
That could be. Maybe. It could be that I wasn't her type. I mean, I don't want to make this about me. I'm talking about a hypothetical transamorous man.
No, I hear you. But,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that very same thing play out before in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. But I always kind of knew a little bit of the backstory, so I knew why they were being such bitches.
Mm-hmm.
It's either they, were only there to score clients, and you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They were only there to, because they just got hurt, and so now they're angry and they want to take it out on somebody else, and so I don't know. It definitely
best way to get over a man is get under a new one.
And so when you contrast, my only point is when you contrast that with the experience of a gay man. So a gay man goes into this bar, a gay bar. There are all these men here, and maybe he
presumably all gay as well.
Yes, presumably all gay as well. Good point. So he tries. So there's a guy sitting next to him. He's just now this guy's just now out as gay. So he's just as nervous as a transamorous man now. But he's surrounded by gay men, and so he's not a cis man partially surrounded by trans women. He's now a gay man surrounded by gay men. And so when he reaches out and says, "Hey, how was the football game?" or whatever it is that gay men talk about, the gay man is probably... She gave me a look like they don't talk about that shit.
Well, some do.
I know,
but I tell you, not the average.
Exactly.
Is gonna tell how's that game? Bitch, you see my new shoes? Anyway.
So when he reaches out to speak to someone at the bar, more than likely he's going to receive positive reinforcement for his attempt.
Yeah.
Right?
You make a really good point. And I never thought about that. How difficult it must be to come out as a transamorous man.
That's all I'm saying. And
I understand the difficulty and see it. You know what I mean? It's their own closet. You know what I mean? It's getting to a place of comfort and within the self. Comfort within who you are. And believing who you are, and believing that. You know what I mean? Actually living that authentic life, living your authentic self.
And I think sometimes
it can be a very scary thing.
It can be very scary.
Especially when you have nowhere to turn for assistance.
And for
which
support.
is why the Transamorous Network is here.
Thank you,
right?
Remy. I mean, this specific episode is so good for the men that are watching, because I think it would be really helpful if trans women would do a couple of things. One, recognize that there are transamorous men out there that are trying. Yeah. Secondly, be gentle with the men. And then thirdly,
unless they like it rough.
Exactly. And then thirdly, stop trying so hard to focus on all the negative things that are happening to them, to trans women, and consider the possibility that it's just... I know people are going to react when I say this, but it's just as hard, it's only different, for a transamorous man to come out as much as it is for a trans woman.
Absolutely.
For God's
It's
sake,
just as hard.
Get off your shit.
I believe it. Absolutely.
Is it?
To
Okay,
own,
so I
to
gotta
own and say
time out that second, because now I'm a big fan of everybody has their 100%. Like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I'm doing a lot of self-work on appreciating that is their 100%. And it's just as bad and just as difficult and just as painful as my 100%, as your 100%, and as yours. But when you say, there's so much more with transition, physical transition, that a transamorous man doesn't have to go through. We all have to go through this self-acceptance and this coming out to self, which is probably one of the most difficult things. And then we have to come out of the closet. But that's kind of where it ends for a transamorous man, right?
Well, no, because the transamorous man not only has to have that internal self-acceptance that you're talking about, in some ways, for them to be out... look at it this way. So I'm going to make some shit up. I'm not prestigious. I'm a first-term law student who just got my job at the law school, the law firm that I always wanted, and I'm transamorous. So we have this party at work, and everyone is bringing their spouses, and I happen to be and I want, let's say the weekend before, I meet a trans woman who I'm head over heels with, but I'm in the secret because I'm fucking not out about it, and I get to this party, and I'm really thinking, I want to bring my date. I want to bring the person who I'm head over heels for, but I can't bring the person who I'm head over heels for because, number one, I just got this job and I don't want to put it at risk by coming out with some trans person on my shoulder, on my arm. And number two, that feels now. I'm a more enlightened transamorous, not me personally, but in this hypothetical situation, I'm a more enlightened transamorous person, male, and so I know that my partner would feel better if I was willing to bring her to this party. She wants to meet these people she wants to be out in this prestigious law firm as much as I do.
Well, she wants to be taken out in public and know that you aren't afraid of that. And at least I do.
Yeah. I do. Yes. Oh, there's no question.
And so I want you to be a strong man and be able to step outside with me and not care, not worry, not, you know what I mean? Be like,
but what we're talking about at this moment,
think, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. We're responding to your comment. And so for a trans woman to be out and have to deal with the appearance, and it's about appearances. It's the same thing. A transamorous man has to deal with the appearance of being out with a trans person.
And in that respect, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I really do. Like the actual physical coming out, like for instance, when a transamorous man is in a group of dudes, he doesn't necessarily wear a button on his shirt that says,
right.
I'm transamorous. He can choose not to disclose that.
Correct.
But when he's with his partner,
it's like having a button on his shoulder. He does. But
I guess my point is it's a very different
button.
thing.
Thank you.
Than to have a button than to be the button.
I agree.
Because you're never going to stop being the button.
I
you
agree.
can take the button off and on.
I agree.
So
yeah.
But do you stop becoming a transamorous man?
No, absolutely not.
That's exactly right. And
no,
and the moment that you do come out with your trans woman partner, and your friends or your family or your colleagues or whoever sees you, when the next time you're out without that person, they're still thinking about you being out with her that last time. It's not like their memory has been erased, that they don't remember seeing who you were with when they saw you. And let's say I'm kind of going off.
Yep. I like this. Let us know. Let it out, Cletus. Come on.
Let's say you don't intentionally go to an organized event where your friends are. Let's say you're out loving your partner out in public, and you just run into one of your friends from work.
Mm-hmm.
Then what kind of shit do you have to deal with when you go to work the next day?
There's no half-assing.
No, there's no half-assing.
You
for
can
anybody.
You can do that tiptoe out thing, but eventually you're going to be seen, and then it's over. And then you're all the way out of the closet. You can't be like hopping in and out.
Exactly.
Which is something that a lot of people do or try to do while they transition to fully being out of the closet.
Right.
You know, personally, when I was doing the weekend and away from work thing, but then when I went to work, I had to present in a different way because it was the U.S. military. So, I get it.
Yeah.
But then once one of my coworkers saw me out having a good time, Then it went back to work, and it spread like wildfire. And then I was sitting, standing tall in front of the man, and having to explain this and like why they shouldn't kick me out and blah 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 blah. So it's the same. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's so I'm speaking on behalf of the male audience who watches our show and listens to our podcast. I mean, we here in the studio are on their side.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then for the trans women who are watching this show, I think we're trying to accomplish a couple of things. One is we're trying to get them on the side of the transamorous man, to recognize
that not all men are bad.
Yeah. And these men that we're specifically talking about are on your side. Stop treating them like they're not on your side. And then the other thing that we're doing for the trans women in our audience is showing them that they don't have to focus on the negative aspects of being trans. Mm-hmm. And when you don't focus on those things, when you focus on the opposite of that, your life just becomes so much better.
Do you still find yourself, especially, and I want to ask specifically about Portland, because Portland is an amazing city. It's probably the most progressive, liberal city I've ever been in. Everybody's going to be like, oh, you've been to San Francisco? Yes, it's a big city, and it's a lot. Portland is just queer everywhere.
Mm-hmm. It's very different than San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more accepting, just
absolutely
as everybody. Oh, no question. Yeah, you can go anywhere, dressed any way, and people really aren't going to raise an eyebrow. Right. You'll probably get a lot more compliments if you're dressed outrageously, or what someone would consider outrageous, than you would a dig or an insult. So my question, Perry, is: do you still find in Portland, this really super accepting liberal city, women still acting this way, trans women still acting this way,
responding to transamorous men?
Yeah,
the way you're talking, or the way that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, or are they more honestly?
I haven't.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
I haven't gone out seeking dates with trans women because I'm married, and so it's just not. I don't have that experience right now.
Okay.
When we met, you had the experience.
Well, yes, we.
So it happens. There are people here.
Yeah.
I want to hear this story.
Well, when we met,
we talked about this.
Yeah, when we met, though, it was. I mean, I complimented you on your lips because you have beautiful lips, and we had this really nice conversation. She does.
Thank you.
But I wasn't doing it in the context of trying to get with you. I was just complimenting you as a way of opening a conversation.
Right. But still, I interpret what I interpreted and was responding to you as I would have responded to all the other men that had been treating me not very well. When we went to tea.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's true. You're right. And
because that's the space that I was in.
You're right. And it's funny that we...
How did you react?
Perry's the one who showed me that not all men are scum, but I was beginning to treat him as though he was trying to, be something that he wasn't, and was maybe being more invasive than I thought he would have been. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true. And we were at the Velvet Rope, this club, and now that I think about it, I did experience what I'm talking about from several of the trans women there that I even just tried to say hello to. So yeah, I think there is, and this is interesting because now I have to consider. So
this goes back into that admirers conversation.
Yes. It's like what is going on with my vibe, with my story, that still has me having those experiences.
Because that's their story still, and maybe you're the one to continue showing people that not all men are bad. Yeah. Or as again, it shows you that where your story is.
Yes.
And how far you've come from that
That's
place.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I think too. And the other thing is that I was that the Velvet Rope, the reason why I was at the Velvet Rope wasn't because that's where I hang out. I was going because I was interested in seeing what it was like there. Mm-hmm. And where I normally meet trans people is just in my everyday life. And in those circumstances, this is interesting conversation. In those circumstances, I have not, except for that time with that recently where I tried to talk to that trans woman to come onto the show after she had been accosted by that guy.
Which was not at the club.
Which is not at the club. Except that instance, every other instance where I approached a trans woman on the street, it's been extremely positive. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
the universe is going to occasionally remind you.
Mm-hmm.
They have to, remind you of the bad things that are out there, so you continue focusing on the good things. At least that's kind of how I would see it.
It is. It's kind of like how we had talked about yesterday, Remy. It's like the the experiences that we have that could be interpreted as negative are the context in which we are able to appreciate the wonderful things that happen in our lives. And so it's just really, really interesting. The show is like, we're 35 minutes into the show and we haven't gotten to the second part of our agenda.
Well, let's move into that.
What's that?
Let's move into that part then.
Yeah,
She's ready.
She's ready. So, American Apparel.
Yes.
They came out with this bag. And this bag, it's a...
So they have bags that they make, like totes.
bag.
And they have usually like the name of every city where they have...
is that what
a
it
store?
is?
So it's like, San Francisco, Portland, Bangkok, Tokyo, whatever it says, right? So then they came out with this gay pride bag, which has all these different terms that people identify with in the LGBTA, and there's the problem.
QI, whatever the fuck it is.
Community. Well, theirs specifically was LGBTQA.
Okay.
Right? And the A is the problem because the community is saying that's supposed to represent asexual. Mm-hmm. I'm asexual and you're leaving me out. And American Apparel said it stands for ally, for the other part of the pride, the people who are part of it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it says on the bag. That's not their, they didn't come out with a statement, I don't believe, that said, no, that's what it stands for. So just to be clear.
Yeah, and Shannon is an expert on all this alphabet soup, so we're glad to have her in the studio. But it's interesting that human beings, we're so interesting.
Well, we've talked before in the very beginning how labels are such a big thing in
Oh
society and how much we dislike them here.
Well, I totally do.
Well, I don't like all of the labels.
I don't either.
But our society needs them to understand what you're talking
Why?
about. Because it's where they are. Don't be mad, Cletus. It is what it is. They can't all be as far as us and you.
From a practical standpoint, it's important for somebody to identify in a certain way. For instance, I'm transgender. I'm pansexual. Those two words say a lot about who my potential partner could be, what I'm looking for sexually. So instead of going, well, let's go through the nuts and bolts of how you want your experiences to be. Do you want to have sex with someone that has a penis or a vagina or both or neither? And how would you like to have that? That's such an exhausting conversation to have instead of saying, oh, I'm pansexual. Boom. 1 million questions just got answered. So labels, in a way, are, to me, very efficient. Yes,
fair.
Are they perfect? No, not a single one of them is perfect.
Yeah,
but it saves me a lot of time. It saves us all a lot of time.
Yeah, I get that. Personally, it's hard for me to find a label that actually fits because it's so fluid. I guess fluid would be my label.
That's why queer is
such
so
many labels.
That's why
God.
Everyone wants their own term.
That's why queer is so popular right now, because it doesn't put you in a box.
Yeah.
Per se, it takes you out of the binaries.
Yeah.
But the binaries are kind of these tiny little ends of the slope, and then everybody else is in this gray area. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's why queer is so popular. Like, today I'm this. I'm queer. I'm just queer. Just stop. Just let me be. Whatever I want to be today, that's what I am.
Right? That's what I prefer. And it's interesting. What I find interesting about this flap with this bag is that this company has spent how many thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to produce this bag to honor this community, and all this community can focus on is not just that they didn't get the acronym wrong. That A is in the acronym sometimes. Mm-hmm, they just chose to interpret it in a different way. And from what I understand, you said it before we started the show, ally is an appropriate interpretation sometimes.
And it all depends. It's either, and it stands for both, so we don't need two A's. So please don't go adding another A. It stands for both. Either ally or asexual. They're both represented by the same letters. Whatever one you want to pick, you can pick. You can pick them both if you want. Just like the Q can stand for queer or questioning. They're both represented by the same letter.
Bisexual or binary?
And just if I... Your face. Oh my God!
It's true. It's ridiculous. Give people.
I know
people.
So I just want to. I see this so often, and I especially see it amplified in the transgender community when people come out and say, hey, I'm an ally, I want to support you, here's my best effort. So many people turn their nose up and know you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
F you. It's like, well, come on. Like, you need support. We all need support. So just go, oh my God, thank you. Would you also consider improving it in this way?
Exactly.
They're so angry.
Well, and look at this bag. This bag has it's like almost every square inch of real estate is filled up with writing, and so you couldn't. I guess you could get asexual right next to ally and have it sit in there, but I could see an asexual person who identifies with the A in LGBTQ.
I think they chose that acronym because they're a store that sells to everybody, and people who are not LBGT or Q that are allies, friends, family. My cousin's gay. I love it. Support it. So they'll wear the bag as an ally in support of.
Yeah. So it's a more inclusive bag in that
exactly.
regard.
Yes. That's a good point.
I think that's probably why a company like American Apparel chose the ally interpretation, because it'll sell more.
I think you're right.
Yes, for those,
Get over it. Exactly.
Should be happy that they did a bag with rainbows and acknowledge the community at all.
Yes.
So there.
So there.
And that's that.
That's that.
Now.
Okay, well that was good. We covered that one real quick. So now we got time. We've got time actually. Let's do it. So 2 episodes or an episode?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Previously. Remy, you're so good. Remy said that Remy had shared with the audience that she does readings.
Yes.
And so I'm a professional psychic. Shannon was excited about
oh my God, I'm
being
so
the
stoked.
subject of a reading.
Yes.
And so that's what we're going to do next.
All right.
And before we begin, because I don't want to interrupt it, my parking is up at 41. I have 19 minutes. So do we need to break and then come back, or should we
could
just
do that?
It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Let's
break and come back. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, this is good. This is the first time we got to do this. So when we come back next, how do they do it on TV? When we
after
come back,
a few words from our sponsor. See you in 2 and 2.
Exactly. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back. This is Perry from the Transamorous Network podcast.
This is Remy Omatar.
And this is Shannon Scott. Hello, hello.
And now we're going to do the second half of the show. As promised, we're going to do an on-camera.
Yes, and oh my God.
On podcast.
So this is my first on-air.
Yes.
We won't even let him finish. We're so excited.
I've done quite a bit of readings, and this would be my first recorded on-air type of situation.
Okay, so let's do some ground rules real quick, just a couple of them. One, remember that we're not only on video, but the show is just going to be audio.
I know.
Okay, so maybe I don't need to give the ground rules. Dang.
But go ahead, give me your ground rules.
So when you throw out a card, however you're going to do that, give some description of what you're throwing out, so the people
it happens.
Okay, good. And let's see, is there anything else? I was going to say something
going on right there.
Oh,
it's
that's
too late.
good.
The camera's rolling.
Yeah.
All
right. About hers.
And then the other thing is, obviously they can't see what you're putting on the table, so you're gonna do some sort of flash up there.
I will try to flash the cards at the thing. Again, this is a way I haven't done it, so I will do my best to remember all of that. But when the spirit starts speaking, it just kind of does what it does.
Okay. And I'm going to do what you asked me to do, starting right now.
All right. I've asked Perry to pull his energies, his own private energy bubble, in really, really tight and kind of solidify that and keep it to himself as to not interfere with us. And I'm going to build a little energetic wall just to keep our energy separate so I can really focus on you.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'm going to tell you how I work. I want you to I don't want to know anything. I just want you to have the questions that you have in your mind, even if that's just, let's see what the universe has to say.
Okay.
Keep that in your mind, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to hold your hand, and I'm going to kind of meditate for a moment, pull in the energy, do a little prayer, and then I fan the cards out, and you pick the cards.
Okay.
And I read the cards that are picked.
My hands are a little sweaty. I think
That's fine.
So
I
excited.
just have a question. Can I watch?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can be here. I mean, I'm not saying not be here.
Okay.
Just keep your energies
Okay.
private so that way I don't confuse, right, the two of you.
Yes.
And for the record, I'm very excited about this. And just so that everybody's like, as I know you're going to be reading my reaction and you have all these ideas about how you feel about this, I have no predisposition one way or the other. I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I don't hate it. I'm completely neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And Shannon and I
I'm
have
very
not spent a
open-minded.
lot of time outside of here. So what I know about Shannon is what's happened on the show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot about Shannon that I really don't know. So we will see what happens.
so important.
All right. Okay. So I usually get, like, at that point when I'm holding the hands and pulling the energy in, I usually get a quick imprint, just a quick impression, and it usually tends to give me a concept of where you are in your world. And I saw you standing at a podium, like, yes! And, like, confetti falling, and, like, like you won the race or something. So that's the image I saw, whatever that means to you. All right. So, I hope you can hear me. I can't have this in front of me, but I'll do my best. Please select 9 cards.
Four.
I am using an oracle deck. It is the Wisdom of Avalon.
6.
It's my personal favorite. I do read tarot, but this one speaks a lot to me, so it's my favorite.
Okay, these ones.
All right.
I think I got the number right.
Eight. I need one more. All right. Sometime a card speaks to me, and so I pull it, and it's like the card after all the other cards. Okay. So this was going to come out as a story to me that's cut up in pieces.
Okay.
So I will be rearranging the pieces.
So right now, for all of you that are listening, Remy is looking at the cards and she's grouping them and moving them around.
Thank you.
So she's basically writing the story.
I'm piecing it together.
Piecing it together? I guess I wrote the story.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so what comes first and stands out first is the novice. Okay, which speaks to me. So it represents innocence, beginnings, ignorance, new skill without practice, unstable curiosity. That's not what I feel is that you're starting a new venture. There's something brand new that you're getting ready to get into, and it's new. It's something different that you haven't done yet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, should I be giving you feedback as you read?
If
or
you
no?
want to.
Okay,
it's up to you.
I
would
want
help
to
the
just for the
audience.
guests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
for the
you could
everybody
always
listening.
sum it at the end.
Okay, yeah, I'll
too.
do that.
So
I'll give you
let's get what we get, and then you
Okay.
can tell me how it fits or doesn't fit and what makes sense.
Okay.
So it's a new beginning. The goblin, which represents wounded human ego, comes in a little bit, and what he's saying to me is that there's actually fear of what. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of this new venture, this new project not succeeding, and that's just a really small back in the head story, but it's there, and that's one of those ones, of course, we have to work on. But it's going to bring you a change. It's going to bring wonderful things into your life. It's transformation. So it's a new opportunity. And you need to trust in your own intuition and your own psychic gifts, because that's what's going to lead you to where you want to get. Okay, when you second guess when you second guess those first emotions and those first thoughts, right? That's when you're not trusting spirit. That's when you're not trusting yourself.
Okay.
So you have to acknowledge that you have your own psychic gifts, and that we all have intuition. It's all part of all of us. It's just a matter of how much you work that muscle and how strong it gets, right?
Okay.
We all pick up on different vibrations. But like, so this, again, it's birth, rebirth came in. Oh, I'm sorry. That last card was the swan. Birth, rebirth, which is a road sign. Okay. So to me, again, it's a change. It's time for something new, but birth and rebirth, again, is not, there is no death. There is no end. It's a continuation and keep going kind of new life. Okay. That, and what you're doing or what the project does entail is thoughts, words, and intellectual analysis. Okay, so that's the wind fairy. The wind is the element of cannot be contained. It's an all out there. It's also the element of knowledge. It's where we as Wiccans pray to the East for knowledge and intellectual things, right? Water would be your emotional. Wind is going to be your intellectual. And so, but that's also, she's also, so, okay, so she is saying that your project relates to this, but you're also doing a lot of this. There's a lot of, it's really good. It's really taking up a lot of your mental time. Like there's a lot you're thinking about, a lot of stuff to get in order, a lot of stuff to make sure it's ready in time. Ready in time. That keeps being repeated in my head. And that, so there's, this project relates into perception and communication and leads you to a place of wealth. And I get this to mean a lot of things, okay? These are also road signs: perception, communication, and wealth. So communication is part of what you're doing. And perception is part of the things that you're trying to change.
I have freaking goosebumps right now. For you guys, I'm freaking losing it. This is so cool. I cannot wait to tell you.
So, perception, again, also talks about the birth and rebirth. So your perception on this new project and on the way things go is going to be the difference, right? And so keeping your perception open and looking from different angles as best as possible, right? Because it's one thing to sit in the middle and think about things or be involved in something, and it's different to sit outside of it or pull yourself aside from it or detach yourself from it, even if it's your situation, and think about it as though it's someone else. And that helps the process. Okay.
That's good advice for any situation.
And so then the Lady of the Lake, okay, which is absolute truth, courage, self-respect, and responsibility. I see you. This is you. She represents you, and she holds Excalibur, right, which is the sword of truth. So you're cutting through bullshit, and you're bringing truth to people, and it's empowering. It's extremely empowering for you, but those who receive the message, it's also going to be very powerful for, right? It's going to be this is a life-changing thing that you're creating, and it's not just your life that's going to change through this project, okay? Excuse me. Everyone who gets touched by this project is going to have some sort of alteration happen in their world, okay? So this is the 10th card. The High Priestess. She almost always shows up as me. And it's rare that she actually says me. And I feel like this is me. And somehow I'm going to help with this process. And this could be what I'm doing right now, okay? The High Priestess is discernment, presence, prophecy, and vision, right? She's got all of the tools. She holds all the tools. She holds the smoke and the fire and the stone. And she has all the things that are needed to create the goals wanted, or she can assist in those projects, okay? And maybe it's not me, but I feel this is me. I mean, look at the card. She looks like me.
She does.
Yeah.
So, can I spill now?
Let me just make sure I don't have any other cards. The Wasp is, it's the Wasp, and he kind of represents anger, retaliation, and jealousy. What I get from that is guarded, is what I get. Like maybe you're not ready to release this information, so it's guarded, or guarded is what I keep hearing. It's not.
I'm trying to think of what that would be for.
And maybe it'll make sense later.
Okay, so now can...
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just going to go... Let me move this mic because I'm hearing some... Like I'm far away. So I'm going to move my mic a little bit, and then I'm going to go into the cards. And I'm going to start and go in the same order and say the card again. So the novice was the first card, which was the new beginning, a new endeavor, and that is exactly right. I am starting a new business. It's called Shannon Scott Speaks, but already we're thinking of rebranding into something new. And so that was 100% right on. I'm brand new to this. I've worked 15 years in the federal government in electronics. And so now trying to build a business to help companies integrate equality, and I'm moving into a public speaker and an educator and a consultant. There's like not a whole lot, it's 180 degrees. I went from working with electrons and blueprints and machines to working with people and human beings. And so for me, I'm brand new to this. The goblin, which represents a fear. Was it fear?
For you, I felt fear.
Absolutely. And so my job right now is I'm really in a comfortable place financially. And the job is very comfortable itself. It's very low stress. At times there's stress just like everything else, but it's a very comfortable place. So this new endeavor is going to put me in a lot of risk financially. It's going to put me in a lot of risk, and that I'm not just going to be able to go to work some days and kick my feet up. I'm going to have to hustle every single day, and that's going to make me more uncomfortable than I am now. And so I am afraid of having to live a less lavish life, to have less money to spend, to have to work twice as hard to make half as much. So again, like spot on. And then we went to the swan. And run us by really quick. What was that again?
The swan represents transformation. So this you're going from one complete end
Absolutely.
to another. Again, that 180, but it also reminds you to trust your gifts and that what you're doing is right.
And just to speak on that for one moment, I, in my life, have never felt so much confidence and power in doing something. And it's to the level where it's not even I believe it, I just know it. It's already happened. The business has already taken off. It's already been super successful. I've already completed all of my goals. Now I just get to walk the path and experience that success. The next one was
birth and rebirth, change, a positive change.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I've never been so happy doing something new. I'm not happy going to work anymore. It's a great job. It's fine, but I don't love it. But when I go out and I speak to groups or individuals, and I can share my story and how I can empower them, it's the most satisfying, gratifying feeling I've ever had. So, did we go to Lady of the Lake from there?
I think the Wind Fairy was first.
Wind Fairy. And remind me?
She's thoughts, words, intellectual analysis, the mind.
So that's exactly where I'm going. I now have to break into people's minds and say, you have this stereotype or these set of thoughts regarding the LGBTQIA community, and
which goes into the perception
yes,
of their perceptions, helping people change their perceptions.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. So, next card.
Via communication.
Which is all about what your business is about.
Absolutely. It's 100%.
Bringing wealth. And again, this card means more than just like it's all the wealth. It's financial wealth, but it's the joy that we talk about, right? It's the wealth of love, of friends, of family, of health. It's the true wealth. It's the deep wealth. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute
sense. And
it
also is that superficial wealth.
Absolutely.
The money.
The money.
I've already experienced so much of the spiritual side of the wealth, and I'm living that every single day, and it's amazing. What's yet to come is the actual the money. To say
it's gonna happen.
I have no doubt.
And maybe that, yeah.
So the next card
was the Lady of the Lake, and again, I see her as actually representing you. So she's coming up out of the water. Okay, so she's being birthed from spirit, from intuition, from dream. She's being born of magic or coming out of magic, and again, holds the sword of truth. So you cut through the bullshit, and again, you're using that sword of truth to help change perceptions because you're cutting away old thoughts that people have, old ways of being, old ways of thinking, right?
And this card speaks to me on so many other levels because, yes, that's what I'm doing with my new endeavors, but that's what I'm doing personally, too. For the first quarter of a century of my life, I was living a lie. I was walking around pretending to be somebody I wasn't, having to look for other people on cues on how to act because I couldn't go with my gut and I couldn't go with my instinct. And I couldn't go with how I really felt. So now I'm cutting all of that. I feel like I'm shedding that and I can just be genuine all of the time now. And it's so empowering.
Very cool.
What was the next one?
The High Priestess, discernment.
And so that was you bringing this all to me.
Whatever part I play, it's something. And again, I'm not just saying that to say it, but like I honestly feel, because she does represent other things and other people sometimes. She can just represent that you have all the tools that you need. But I also feel that she's also representing that there's something I'm going to offer. And maybe that's this right now. Maybe it's something else later. I don't know that.
I had a couple of those aha moments during this whole thing. Like when you told me that I need to start looking at it from an outside perspective, I think that's where I'm really going to find my success with this, because the business isn't for me. I'm here to serve. And so I need to look at the people I'm trying to serve and see what they need and how I can best serve them. So absolutely. The one I am confused about a little bit is the wasp. And I love this because when I've confronted my fears in the past and had the courage to stand up and say, this is the truth, then that fear breaks down. I conquer a new goal. I'm held back less. I'm lighter. I'm quicker. I'm more successful. So I really want to know what it is.
Perhaps he's representing those old thoughts and just giving you that these are the things you need to let go. Like those are the last pieces, or don't allow them to come in, because you do have a fear of the new.
You know what? I have a very big fear about the business transition, because I have a really decent, I could have a comfortable lifestyle for the rest of my life if I were to just stick with the status quo. And I'm very afraid of, money matters. Like giving up your health insurance matters. Those are all things that are big risks, and I'm probably afraid of those. So that's probably what the wasp is that plays into this story. Now, I have to tell you, when Remy told me at the beginning to hold a question in my mind, I was holding a question and holding a question. And the question was, how am I going to reach my greatest success? And then this story played out.
Wow. And
so literally I'm like goosebumps like crazy right now. It's so exciting that I asked that question and then this story spilled out. Thank you. That was amazing.
Were you close to your grandmother? A grandmother, or a grandmotherly figure?
I like my grandma.
Who's passed?
Oh, no. The one that I was close to is still alive, and the one that is passed is, I only knew her as an infant. So. I'm
feeling the presence and energy of an older woman here.
Yeah, it's my Aunt Nancy.
Okay. She's like, it
absolutely is, yeah.
Okay, so then she's here. She's over your right shoulder. She's like got your back. She's there. She's supporting you. She loves you. She's still around. Okay, and then I feel like I see, I'm not sure if this is a spirit guide or an angel, but you've got a very tall, beautiful, glowing, like white yellow being standing behind you with like all this flowing fabulousness, and I feel just strength and power and like upliftment from this energy. Exciting. So I don't know if it's an angel or a spirit guide, but it's along those lines of the spiritual assistance that has your back as well.
This is so awesome. That's so exciting. This was so cool. It ended up, wow. And I'm trying to like not be overly excited right now, because I know some of our audience are probably pretty skeptical right now. I'm like, oh well, that would have played out no matter which part.
Is she your mother's sister?
My father's sister.
Father's sister.
Yeah. But she told the story that is my life right now, and answered the question that I was asking. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yes.
Thank you. My pleasure. Hopefully it helps.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
This will be a reading I don't forget, because I'll have it on recording. Exactly. See, as a reader, when you get the information and you do the reading for the person, Spirit comes in and relays the message, or helps you to relay the message to the individual receiving. It's for them. It's for you. It's not for me. Mm-hmm. So typically, I would not remember this. In 20 minutes, I won't remember any of this. Yeah. But this, of course, will be different. But yeah, it's for me. I have people that I've read for, and they'll come back a year later. Like I did a psychic fair not too long ago, and a gentleman came down specifically because his wife was there, and she's like, Remy's here. And he like flew down, and he's like, I came down here to see you. You read for me last year. And I was like, okay.
Don't remember.
How'd it go? And he wanted to let me know that everything that I had said had come true. Wow. And had given him the courage and strength to get through it.
Wow.
And so like those sorts of validations are amazing. Yeah.
No, knowing this validation that what I've been working on so intently for the last year and what I'm still working on right now is the right path, because it was everything in the last year I've been doing.
Very
and it
cool.
answered my question amazingly.
Very cool.
I'm glad.
Try it out.
How are they going to try it out? I guess they can.
Miss Remy Ilmatar at gmail.com, and you can email me, and I do phone readings.
Fantastic.
So maybe I'll do a Skype reading.
Yeah,
who knows? You'll have to teach me how to Skype.
Yeah,
I'm not a techie person.
But you're going to be.
You are. Why do I have to be?
That's a good point. Actually.
All right.
And
See?
I'll be in your life.
Boom.
Okay, so let's wrap up this episode with
Yeah.
our call to action. What was that? What was that wonderful phrase?
So we're talking to the Transamorous men out there, and to everyone else, step up and be proud.
Yes, there was something that you were gonna. What was that phrase that we said last week? You can't. Damn it! You can't be a.
You.
If you want allow. If you want
a strong woman wants a
yes,
strong man.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
You can't be. Yeah, you can't find a strong woman if you're not a strong man.
Yep.
So be strong.
Yeah.
Stand
be
up.
strong.
Step
Come on
up.
out. This whole episode actually.
Shimon, please. Let's do it.
Mostly about you coming out. So yeah, step up, own your transamory, and you'll find that your entire life will shift when you do that.
In for the
Absolutely.
positives.
Very positive way, as we all are.
Can
experiencing.
attest and experience.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
In more profound ways than we even share on the.
Find your courage
Yes.
and execute on it. You won't regret it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.